Okay, in this video, we are going to discuss something that should be completely obvious, but could nonetheless use some clarity. Supposedly, being open-minded is desirable since people disagree, and so quite a lot of people are probably wrong, and we would like for them to be open to the possibility of changing their minds. But who's wrong? It may be you, or me, or anyone. Let's suppose that some people's views are right. Even they should be open to changing their mind because it is very difficult to have satisfying knowledge that you are right. For the most part, people believe that they are right. They don't know that they are right. Similarly, even if someone is right, they should believe that maybe they're wrong. So, how can we know who is right? One considerable obstacle to having this knowledge is that people don't make the best case for other people's views. You are not right just because you win an argument. If you are going to infer anything from conversations you have with other people, or even from media that you consume, you need to argue against the best case that can be made for an opinion. Unfortunately, anyone we are likely to meet is unlikely to make the best case, even for their own views. So, we have to debate with people that we haven't met or can't meet because they may not have that kind of existence. We have to debate the fictional person that generally represents them, or that has the views that they want to have. We call these fictional people that we create foils because they are representatives of views someone might have. You have to debate the foil par excellence, but when we consider them in an abstract way, where we don't imagine them as representing a fictional person, when we consider just views, another word comes to mind: ideologies. This is where my suggestion comes in. The knowledge that people have of other people's views is really quite poor and generally quite petty and vindictive. Certainly it is typical to de-gaff making the best case. So, I have decided to introduce a metaphor to help people keep track of different views. And the metaphor is ideology as diet. People know tons of diets. Atkins, vegetarian, pescatarian, vegan, kosher, paleo, South Beach, grapefruit, etc. And they are satisfied to try them out and see what they like best. People don't want to reject a diet hastily. They want to give it a chance to work. People should treat ideologies similarly, but there is an important difference. Whereas it is somewhat clear in our own lives whether or not a literal diet works, it is much less clear in our own life whether or not an ideology diet works, by which I mean is an accurate description of reality. That is, people are biased by their personal experience. Ideologies deal with macro issues, and there is no macro personal experience. That's a contradiction in terms. So, ideologies can only be well considered in terms of arguments that aren't stubbornly linked to identity. There is another quite fine aspect of this metaphor. Just as someone that isn't purposely on a diet still has a diet, so too does someone without an ideology have an ideology. You've heard them, "Oh no, I just take issues as they come, one by one, nonpartisan style, I'm independent." My response, "Oh really? Is that what you think people should do?" Now, that isn't the only way that I mean to refer to people that don't have an ideology. I mean especially people that more or less unquestionably hold the views of their society, which, for example, in our society include the belief that people have rights, that being a hypocrite is wrong in itself, that the phrase "people should be able to do whatever they want" isn't meaningless, that Star Wars is good, etc. These default views are what Leo Strauss called orthodoxy. And I'm here to say that orthodoxy should be taken seriously. You have to make the best case for orthodoxy too. Granted, society requires a division of labor, and therefore requires that most people are not fanatically committed to discovering the truth about life, and so society requires myths. But nonetheless, it may be fine that someone has a certain orthodox belief, or that certain orthodoxies are better than others, or that an orthodox belief may point toward what is true. My point is that orthodoxy, being necessary for society, shouldn't be criticized just for being orthodoxy. Anyway, Let's talk about managing our ideology diet. The term I've picked is ideology, and so the first things that come to mind are what we popularly think of as ideologies. Things like liberalism, conservatism, libertarianism, egalitarianism, justitarianism, etc. We think, oh, well, I'm going to look at this from a liberal's perspective, and now I'm going to look at it from a conservative's perspective. That's all well and good, but another reason that I like the diet metaphor is that it suggests that you are regularly consuming something. You have to get caught up on the debate. If you regularly consume new information, before long you will be relatively caught up and have your own quarry that you can mine for wisdom. In order to consider an alternative diet, you have to learn about it. In order to learn about a diet, you will have to begin from a personality. Now, like I said, ultimately, you have to make arguments that aren't stubbornly linked to personality. But if the thinker you have in mind makes a complete argument or points toward one, there can be value in thinking about ideologies in relation to thinkers. I already made a video about this called Why You Should Name Drop Philosophers, and you can check that out for a relatively complete discussion. And just a side point before I wrap this up. I know that Marx popularized the term ideology, and I know that his conception set ideology as opposed to science. In other words, for Marx, ideology is a set of beliefs that are false. Clearly, I am not using the Marxist conception of ideology, since I am extending it to apply to views that are true as well. Anyway, please take care of your ideology diet. Do some research, get caught up, make the best case for the views you reject. I don't have an ideological food pyramid ready for you, but let me give you a little suggestion. Include some ancient Greece in your diet. I don't know how people can think seriously about the world without having considered the ancient Greeks at some length. People talk all the time about de-Westernizing our intellectual life, and I know that Athens had a large influence on the West, but really the West that came to rule the world followed an intellectual break from Athens. It was the post-Machiavelli, Renaissance, Enlightenment, classical liberal type of West that conquered the world and then promptly and prematurely decided it sucked and ushered in postmodernism, or the crisis of modernity. And typically, the reason we want to de-Westernize our intellectual life is something along the lines of Marx's line that the ideas of the ruling class are in every epoch the ruling ideas. Well, ancient Greece was before society assimilated philosophy. Actually, the Greeks tried to destroy philosophy because they found it annoying. Not many thinkers have been in that position and left us with such a comprehensive system of thought, and so the solid quarry of relatively sober reason recommends a large amount of classical Greek philosophy in your ideological diet.